We are multi-dimensional creators, creating both our own personal experience and our collective experience, moment to moment.
Hello and welcome everyone to this week's Collective Imagination Show with myself, Lisa Harrison, and Barbara Carnes in New York. Welcome, Barbara.
Hello.
How you doing?
Hello. Super.
Super, as always. I'm going to ask if someone else wouldn't mind recording it just as a backup, because I just got my computer back from the doctor and the diagnosis is terminal. So
Sheila probably will.
Sheila's there. You got Sheila?
I saw her earlier.
I don't know if she's there. Oh, yeah, she is. Okay. Sheila, I've given you recording ability, if you wouldn't mind. And Barbara is now co-host. I can do that now. Thanks to Jeff, we figured that out.
Super. And I don't know what that means, but, you know, I'm thrilled. Thank you for the award.
Yeah, you're welcome. So, we didn't get to do a show last week because we both had stupid technical issues. And the week before was a pretty cool follow-up on your experience. And I just wanted to touch base and see what's happened since in the last couple of weeks. Has that continued to unfold for you, or have you moved on to something completely different?
It's kind of hard to say because everything just sort of blends together after a while. I had a whole bunch of notes for last week's show before we both couldn't get on the internet. So I can go back and I can see some of the things that happened to me the week prior. And the expansion, for lack of another word, is continuing. And the shape that it's taking is expanding into other things. And I just feel like it's not going to end. It's going to continue, and the unfolding is going to become more and more and more. In the last week, I have, by intent, not asked any questions of the universe because I couldn't handle the flow of information that would come afterwards. And I had to, to handle some housekeeping things here because I'll be leaving soon. And focused on family since I'm only going to be here for a few more weeks. So I did that on purpose. And that opened up a really nice door that seemed as if I was connecting with family. And by family, I mean a lot of them in Egypt and Dubai. And like my cousin out of the blue that I haven't talked to in decades sent me a Facebook friend request. And he did it publicly on my page. Hey, Gus! Yo, what happened? Stuff like that. So when I shifted towards focus on the family here, since I'll only be here for a few more weeks, it seemed as if that was mirroring back to me, reflecting back to me as well. So again, another shape, but it was a much more relaxed and quiet week because I intentionally tried to do that so I could get a few things done. The week prior, I'm looking through all my notes. I had a lot of things that had to do with levity, and the synchronicities are just abounding. Yesterday, you saw that Linda and I had a synchronicity with you and Dee and talking about rainbows in the clouds. And it was really significant because she had posted something on my Sunday morning, which would have been your Sunday evening. And that post had immediately clicked for me as something that I should send to someone. And I didn't even really know why. It wasn't that there was a message in there that I could recognize. I just was triggered that, oh, you got to send this. This is perfect. So whatever that message is, it's for that person. But it was this whole thing about rainbows in your clouds, meaning clouds are the challenges and the troubles and things, but then you have rainbows in your clouds, and that was the whole piece, just 2 or 3 minutes of that. And then you guys are like, ooh, look, rainbow clouds. Oh, look, it was like, who talks about rainbow clouds? I'm not even sure if I've ever heard of anyone use the phrase rainbow clouds. So synchronicities have been, the same as normal. But the most interesting thing that happened between 2 weeks ago and last week was I recognized an ability that I have that I've been able to fine-tune. And I'll just do the best I can to describe it. And anybody can do this. You just have to be able to be in, to take yourself to 2 different places at the same time. And here's what happened. I was sitting here at this desk, and I was thinking about the direction that I was facing, and I don't even remember why. I wish I would have written more copious notes. But I realized that when I'm in Arizona, that when I'm facing in the same direction, I saw something kind of similar. So then I went, okay, so I'm facing northwest, and if I'm facing northwest in the house in Arizona, where am I? When I'm looking at my computer. And then I could actually see myself there, and then it was like I could overlay the two. So that even though I'm right here, I could be right there in that spot at that moment. And I could, even though I can just see what's here, I can, in my mind's eye, I can see what's there, both at the same time, and I can go back and forth between the two. And it was so realistic that I went, okay, I'm going to be there shortly, so I'm going to do the same thing in reverse. So now every time I'm there, I can see myself here, and how cool is that going to be? The windows and the views and everything. So I don't know what you would call that, but it's like laying 2 realities on top of one another, and they can both coexist and be as real for you as you wish them to be. You just simply have to allow yourself to kind of slide back and forth between the two of them. And I think you have to have some spot of commonality, whatever that, in my case, it was the computer. So that was really big because I've been playing with that.
Without even knowing it, you've kind of provided the perfect segue into something. I received an email, and I won't give the details of the person because I haven't spoken to them. I haven't got their permission to share their name or anything. So, but I do want to share the contents of the email because it's kind of extraordinary. I'm just going to read it out. This came in, I didn't read it until yesterday afternoon when I picked up my computer. It says, I need to get rid of all this other stuff so I can see the screen. It says, hello, blah, 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 blah. I was surprised to hear that I'm living something similar to you. I got that kind of dream where you're awake while sleeping, conscious in your dream. I remember everything as if I was awake. In the dream, I was in a woman's body. And this is a man writing to me. And she was driving a car. She had no linear thought. She was not analyzing or thinking about the past or the future. There was no train of thought. But she wanted a man and to have sex. And a man appeared on the passenger bench. She wanted a place where no one could see them, and she found it. And they had sex. Then I disassociated from her, and I was back in myself. English is not their first language, so it's written a little bit out. Then I realized that the train of thought came back, and I was analyzing and thinking about what had just happened. I was intrigued by the way that woman was living completely in the now and how she could manifest whatever she needed. Back in myself, I was like in myself and then looking at myself. And I was going back and forth like this all along the dream. When I was looking at myself, I was receiving telepathic messages. I heard that we, humanity, had to get out of the bad loop, in inverted commas. I was feeling a end of the world scenario. Almost nobody knew about the bad loop. So he's still in the dream. But my co-workers at the office knew about it. One of them got privileged information of a code that will get us out of the loop. But the code was allowing us to get out of the bad loop, but to get into another loop. But it was a better loop. The code was a series of dots that was translating as the last name of a friend of mine. In a hurry, we went to the entrance of a cemetery. There was a guy there. We gave him the code and we jumped into the new loop. We were all richer and life was easier. Then after a certain period of time, we had to jump again into another loop. In the next loop, we were even richer and life was much easier. And we did that 3 or 4 times, I think. And we got richer and life was easier each time. Then I realized that I was in a fucking loop again. It was like a trap or like a prison where you are well fed and taken care of. So I went back to the cemetery and talked to the guy again. I said that I wanted to get out of the loops forever, no loops anymore. He said, all right, but you have to change. And then I found myself in a woman's body again. I asked why I have to be a woman to stop looping. And he answered that I have to take it or leave it. Then I realized that it was just a body. My consciousness was the same. I know it's strange, but I didn't feel that different changing sex like that. There was a little adjustment for a few seconds and that was it. I was ready to go. I didn't mind the change. I jumped into a new timeline. Interestingly, I felt a difference between the loops and the new timeline. In the loops, my life felt like it was written in advance, like a movie scenario. But in the new timeline, I felt strongly that my life was in my hands and that I had to create it. I then woke up. And then this is what his thoughts are after waking up. I was thinking about my dream and it became clear to me that to get out of the loops, I have to activate my right brain. The left hemisphere of the brain is associated with men and the masculine, and the right hemisphere is associated with women and the feminine. The left brain is always analysing. It is thinking linearly in a timeline, always trying to predict the future with the experiences of the past. Also, its job is to locate the body in the space-time continuum so that it can protect us from the dangers. But doing this, it gives us the impression that we are separate from the world around us. The left brain is always looping the past to predict the future. Because our left brain makes us relive our past by looping it in order to protect us from the unknown, we are kind of predictable living a script. The left brain runs the programs. We get programmed by the society and we then feel we are stuck in a loop, a matrix. So to get out of the loops, you have to activate your right brain. And he goes on a little bit more to talk about the right brain. That's quite an experience. That's quite a dream. You're muted though, Dom.
Does he say anything at any point about how he activates that using that code? Because to me, Heareth might be a code.
Well, yeah. Well, no, he said it was a series of almost like Morse code is what I thought of when I read it. And it spelt out a name. And I didn't want to give the name because it might give the way of the person.
Sure. Is he supposed to say it or think it or feel it or?
He didn't say. And it's just a name.
It's and touch your nose and.
Yeah. It's just a surname. I don't know if it could be, if it would have a different meaning in other than English, other than just a surname. I'm one of the things I want to do is look it up and look at the etymology of it. So I'll do that. And if that comes up with anything interesting, I'll share it.
I don't think that's a direct correlation. I think it's to do with the relationship with the friend.
Dee says she thinks it's probably a personal thing in terms of his relationship with that friend. Could be. Could well be. But
anyone in chat? I'm curious if anyone in chat has had any experiences like that where they are having such lucid dreams that indicate that there is a code or they're time jumping or anything like that.
Yeah, no, nothing direct. Just like wows and exciting and.
Like another thing that I've noticed is that in some of these private Zoom chats that I've been Hang on a second. Honey, I'm on the air. Aren't you there? You gotta wait. I'll come in a second, okay? Because I'm talking on the show. I cut my hair. You want to see?
At least it's not a dick.
That's true. I've noticed that these relationships that I'm developing seem to have tentacles that connect us even when we're not on the air. So that I've seen a lot of, mostly because on social media, and I'm on social media a lot because it's part of my job. I manage a lot of people's social media accounts. So I see a lot of this, and I see that there's a nice ebb and flow of postings that are reconnecting and connecting again, or we're in perfect time with something that someone needed. It's almost like where we've connected in a way that is allowing us that connection to live on past the calls. And that it's just like, a cell phone signal kind of thing. You know what I mean? Beep, 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 beep. Because it's uncanny. It's happening more and more and more. So much so that it's almost like, oh my gosh, do I really want to go on social media? Because, all these things are going to start happening. It's just like the same thing. You ask that question and the answers just start flowing. So you can't ask the question unless you're ready for the answer, because you're going to be consumed with information that's just going to find its way to you. So I was curious if anyone else in chat has had that experience where they seem that I'll call it telepathy for lack of another word, that there seems to be an increase in the connectivity between you and others when you're not together, more so than, say, months or years past.
Yeah, you got a couple of yeses. You got 4 yeses, I think.
5, 6.
Big time. Yeah. And
that's interesting. Let's
It's
explore that.
something that occurred to me last night. It's like, I've got to be careful what I ask for right now. And when it comes to the big stuff, like what I really want to face, because I know I'm going to be shown. Like, how brutal do I want to be with myself right now? It's an exciting energy that's around right now, and it's confronting at the same time, because it feels really real. Like there's no nooks and crannies to hide in. It's just, I don't know. I think I've finally come back around, because I've been on a bit of a journey with this, as you know, to really coming back to that power, that manifestation power. Like even a couple of weeks ago, I was ranting to you going, it's all bullshit. I'm not there anymore. I think we're just living out a script. It's all written for us. Brr. The only thing you can manifest is whatever's written in your script. I had those days. And, but everything's, the energy around all that's changed again. And so you give anything more than just a passing thought, and you better be prepared to confront it. Face it, accept it, embrace it, allow it, whatever. Is everybody else feeling that too at the moment? Is it, when it comes to your manifestation abilities, the good and the bad and the ugly and the awesome and everything? Yes, manifestation power. And yes, manifestation power. And we should never say, I wonder. Just something that was shared. When we wonder, we will experience. Yeah. Yeah, instant karma. Yeah, the whole, I think I know how to put this. It's like the very foundation blocks that the matrix is built on are changing. The very code that it's written from I do see the the ridiculousness that's going on with what governments are trying to do, both here in Australia and the US predominantly. The laws they try and the things, the control, levels of control they're trying to achieve, and all of that stuff. And it doesn't feel like it has any ability anymore to be grounded. Hello, Sam.
That's my boy.
He just flashed his
He loves to do
like
that.
belly as he walked out with its full
Yeah, his
tattoo.
six-pack. He's very well built.
And now we all know.
Yes. I'm going to take that little clip out, and like circulate it on Facebook and everywhere, and just.
Apple Music on?
Yeah, go ahead. Well, that'll throw something wrench in the matrix. Bring you right back into the matrix.
There's that spontaneous thing that you can't quite plan for.
Well, you know what was actually kind of interesting about that, even though it was playful like that, I find that happens too, and I'm just better at recognizing it over the years, where I'm in the zone, in the flow, and everything is working fine. And then, these things just come from left or right, boom, boom. Usually when you're in public or things you can't control at all. Like whatever's happening to you right now. And I sometimes believe the intent of that.
It's a bend that's happening right now, I'll just say.
Talk about spontaneous. I mean, we've just had Sam do that to you.
Uh-huh.
I don't even know if I want to tell you what Ben just did. All I can say is you're lucky he was far enough away from the computer for you not to hear it.
It was the rooster.
So that those kinds of things pull you right back into the matrix sometimes. And I think that that's sometimes their job is to just rattle you for a minute, whether it's, funny or not funny, to pull you back into the matrix for a minute. Because then you have to pull yourself back out. You know what I mean? So sometimes I think it's just like with there's so little transparency. Or I mean the opposite. They don't seem to care anymore how open they are about some of the stuff that they're doing. And again, I'm wondering if that is just for the shock value as much, because if they can get our attention enough to focus on that, then they get the energy that they can pursue it. If we look at it and go, yeah, and we turn it off, then they're doing it, but for no real long-term benefit, because there's no energy being put into it. It's like a diversion, a very elaborate diversion.
For me, what I see is like the desensitizing that they've put people through has had a negative effect for them. I mean, it's like they have to keep upping the ante because they've desensitized us so much to drama and trauma, and it's like far out. Now we need to actually knock down the Twin Towers to get their attention. In New York, because they're used to it now. And on the one hand, I can see why they would try to desensitize us, and because it disconnects us from each other. But there's the flip side of having to constantly up the ante. It's going to be a day of this, isn't it? It's going to be a day of it.
Can you hear my phone ringing?
Yeah.
I just changed to that goofy ringtone just so that I wouldn't miss a call that was supposed to come in. And my phone never rings because I'm sure it's one of those recordings or something, but it's like, it's diverting my attention. It's like, yeah, you want some diversion? We'll give you some right now. See, manifestation at its prime.
That's wild. We've had nothing but diversions and interruptions and
Don't even go there.
bizarre.
And my son left the door open, so now the cat is in here and the music's pumping in from the room next door. This never happens on the show. See, look, hello. I'm telling you, so we were talking about it, and it's instant manifestation.
Yeah, go. I mean, Glenn would.
I have to actually close the door because
Yeah,
you guys are
go.
going to hear that music any minute now.
Did you ever think about the Twin Towers being brought to ground zero is symbolic of duality collapsing into singularity, 0 point on some level?
Oh, that's kind of cool.
No, I had never thought of it that
That's
way.
interesting.
Okay, so what is it? What did we touch on? When did the interruptions start? Was it before or after I read that email?
Right after, but we were talking about diversions. Things happening where we feel connected to other people. We were talking about manifesting. We were talking about, I don't know.
Because that was before.
So I'm thinking, somebody can actually, when this is on archive, they're going to go, well, let's go see if she's right. Ding, 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 ding. Ah, she's wrong. So I'm not going to marry myself to anything I don't fucking know.
After telepathy, perhaps. Clearly, the idea of time and the time matrix and time loops and timelines and alternate realities is just that whole mishmash of subjects, connected subjects, has been so prevalent. Whether it's Mandela effect stuff or just us throwing ideas around about the nature of reality, that whole conversation and people's dreams and visions and experiences and meditations and all of that, there's this connecting thread here. And this feeling like we're all interpreting the same thing through our own personal filters, it's just becoming clearer and clearer and clearer to me. And what we that vision of the dome coming down, the matrix coming down, it feels like it's so close. What was the thing you said yesterday when we were in town about it? Sorry, she just did this.
What did I say about what?
The Matrix. You made some comment yesterday when we were...
Yeah, but that was yesterday.
Oh, I know. It was good, though.
I know. I don't remember. I'm sorry, love.
And Dee and I have shared feelings and experiences about when we've gone into the local town, and how we feel like we're strangers in a strange land, for sure, or that it's all happening around us in some sort of 360-degree IMAX theatre, and we're just observers, People looking at us like they're not sure what they're looking at. Like they don't recognise us as people.
No comment.
But when those things happen, what I always also observe on their faces is curiosity, and it's not fear, it's not, and there's confusion, sure, but there's intrigue, there's interest, there's curiosity, and I have no idea why, but I guess there's just that sense of something is different, and in a positive way, hopefully, it makes them feel intrigued. And I don't know what that is. I mean, they look as different to us as maybe we look to them, or the energy feels just as off to them as it does to us. But also that feeling, when you meet people for the first time and you just have that connection, and that, yeah, okay, you're from where I'm from. That seems to be different too, in the sense of it's not just an I like you, or we have we're on the same wavelength, or it's almost instantly deeper than that, a deeper knowing straight off the bat.
Yeah, like everything around it, the color melts from it, and the only thing that you can see is that person at that moment. Everything else is just, diffused.
And the deja vus are out of control.
I've had some bizarre ones the last couple of days.
And there's so many theories on what deja vu is. I mean, if we could nail that, then we'd understand a little bit more about what we're going through right now. But what? You might stop muttering sitting next to... You're part of the distraction interrupting thingy. If you want to say something,
Just
come and sit here and
that's
actually...
all. Just agreeing with you.
Someone else's phone's ringing now, which is also a rarity. Yeah, 2 people's phones are ringing, and they never do. No comments from the Peanut Gallery. 3 phones at the same time went off in amongst the people in the chat room.
Well, you know what's interesting? I'm going to say this, and I'll bet they're going to start again. I'll let you know if they do. But you remember when I used to get those calls on a really regular basis that would say, what was it?
Wasn't it congratulations? You've
been selected. Yeah, congratulations, you have been selected. Yeah, I used to get those all the time, and they even followed me to Arizona. And so I would take a picture of my phone every time it happened, just to catalog the amount of them, the volume. But they've gone away. Now that I've said that, let's see in the next week if I get any. I haven't gotten them in months and months and months. So let's see if I start getting them again. But I was also thinking about, I saw a clip where they showed a galaxy. And when I looked at the galaxy, it made me feel like that is how I envision time, as a density that just exists somewhere that you can step into or step out of, jump into like a pool, or pull yourself out of, but that it think of it in terms of that kind of a visual, because it exists, but it's got lots of space around it. It's just kind of there, and it's etheric and beautiful and just bouncing along, but it is something that you can get into or get out of.
What I liked about that email that I got, it reminded me of your experience, because when you were explaining how you were sitting there in front of the computer, and at first you thought you were just sitting there thinking, and then you realized you weren't. You weren't thinking. You were just in the moment with no thoughts. And that's what we talked about in this email, that this woman was driving and not thinking. But she had a desire that was kind of, the way I read it was, if you've got a desire but you're not thinking about it, then it's a here kind of just pulse, and the brain's not involved at all. So she wasn't thinking about it, but she was projecting that desire, and everything just fell into place.
So maybe you're like, maybe there's a moment of you're an open slate, and if that moment happens when everything else is perfectly aligned, you have these experiences.
But how hard? I mean, it's almost impossible to have no thoughts. I mean, I'm sitting there thinking about the fact that I'm not having any thoughts. You're still having a thought. It's not an easy practice.
So that's what I like white noise for. That's why I have fans. I mean, I like the circulation. That circulation of air always brings me comfort. But the noise of it just fills the air. So those are when I can easily go into a place where I'm not thinking about anything for a few moments. Not anything. There has to be something else filling that void, like white noise.
White noise. Well, when you're having those moments where you're driving and then you realise, oh shit, where have I been for the last 10 minutes? How did I drive this far?
Frighteningly too many of those.
Yeah. Often in those moments, I couldn't tell you what I'd been thinking about in that time that passed. It's not like you go off on a journey and think, oh, well, shit, yeah, better pay attention. I mean, you're totally in autopilot, and I have no idea where my mind is in those moments, or what I've been thinking about. There's a few things going on in the chat room. The blank space between levity and gravity, 0 point. There are levels of going within. Yes, pure cognizance perception. there can still be thought, but not in the normal sense. It is more like direct perception and knowing. I think that place of no thought is where I frequently go when I am involved doing one of my writings or creative projects. I enter some kind of flow, an inner zone where my intellectual and linear reasoning dissolves. I maintain that what happened to Barbara was as strong as it was A, the intent she set during TCI, B, because she was open to the experience, and C, the energy that was present sweeping the planet at that moment. So like 3 elements coming together, creating the perfect storm.
Mhm.
Well, I'm just glad it didn't wash you away completely.
Well, for all I know, I'm in a different timeline.
Well, that's true too, actually.
Yep.
Yeah, somebody was having a discussion. I think it was in one of the groups I'm in, so I don't know if it was a private one or not, but it was about timeline jumping, and it's the possibility of it, the reality of it. And there was one person who was just adamant that it's horseshit. And a few of us were doing our best to say, well, you know, that's your reality and that's your truth, and so therefore that's your experience. Go ahead.
Oh, this was on Facebook? On a
Uh-huh.
thread? This was the
Uh-huh.
one I wanted to bring up yesterday and I couldn't find it. That whole thread and that whole discussion and Nathan's version of what's happening.
Yes.
I can't
Yes.
find it. I've been trying to go.
Well, look, you talk for a moment. I'm sure I can find it in Facebook here real quick.
Okay. Do you want to share?
Okay.
Apparently, Dee had an experience last night. She's
Just, and Barbara just triggered me because of the whole thing of like, maybe I'm just in another timeline, a dimensional. So we joke about, like I said, Lisa and I've talked about every time we go into Lismore, we have these kind of surreal experiences. And last Friday, again, we had to go into Lismore. But when we left Lismore, from pretty much the moment we got just outside of the city boundaries of Lismore,
city's a big word.
yeah, okay, town, whatever. You follow me with this one. I got knocked out. And it was a struggle to maintain consciousness. I mean, it was like physically doing anything that you could do to keep yourself awake. And every time I just kept knocking out, and I would go maybe, 3 minutes, 2 minutes, and I would have all different things that I would see. Do you remember there was a woman's name who came up too? A girl.
Oh, yeah. I can't remember who, though.
Oh,
You asked me if I know somebody by that name, didn't you?
Adarna, something. I can't. There were images that flashed through. There was animals that flashed through my head. Horses, dogs, and birds specifically. There was a young woman that I'd seen, and she said something relatively profound. But the whole way through this, I would come back and my eyes would open. I mean, the whole trip, I don't think Lisa and I spoke 25 words to each other the whole way back. And the one thing I just kept saying is, I don't know how you're driving right now. Because I can't keep myself here. It's like, I just can't keep myself here. She was completely zoned out. She had, like what you said, 10 minutes disappeared.
No, the trip, which normally takes 30 to 40 minutes, took 10 minutes as far as I was concerned. When she said to me, I don't know how you're managing to drive, I said, me either, I'm not here.
The two of us were both, I literally giggled. So yesterday, right after the show, we had to go to Lismore again. And while it wasn't quite the surreal experience it has been on other occasions, same thing though. When we left town, it's almost like conversation stops.
We're like this, cha, 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 all the way in.
Yeah.
And we barely say 2 words to each other
On the way out. And it's just like and while I wasn't knocking out completely, I was completely, you look out the window and you just zone right out. And I was trying to work on actually a medical mystery on my head and working through some stuff. And I'm going through the information, but then I just drift off. And I was just like, okay, this is just ridiculous. So last night, I get into bed, and we'd made some kind of comment about the time warp. We were joking on the way back about maybe Lismore's like, either Lismore or Nimbin, where we're coming into, is like a time warp where you cross over some kind of a threshold.
Well, it is like driving into 1973.
It is kind of like that. I was going to say 1968, actually, but anyways. A lot of when I got back in, things were very shifted yesterday evening for me personally on a personal level. I went to lay down on the bed last night, just before you walked in. And I jumped back up, and Nick looked at me and was like, what? And I said, my fucking head, holy shit. And he's like, what? And he starts looking through my head. I'm like, it hurts so bad. It's as if somebody beat me with a crowbar. And I
just hit you suddenly.
As soon as I laid my head back. So like as far as this was not a problem until I laid my head back and it touched my pillow. And I literally jumped out of my skin. I still have, because Nick was like, take your braids out, take all your braids out. Maybe it's, so like your hair. And I'm like, no, because there was sections of where it was hurting was nowhere near the parts in my hair. It's still bruised to the touch. I have no explanation for it. There's no
So somebody did hit another D in another timeline over the head with a crowbar?
No, and that was the whole joke because Ben made a comment last night in the whole thing about him and the ribs.
Oh.
Right? And I literally, because it was out of the blue. Out of the blue. All I did was lay back and my head touched, and barely touched the pillow. I couldn't sleep last night because it hurt so bad. It literally feels if someone has hit me with a crowbar. That's how bad the bruising feels like. And it's the same thing. There's no reason. I haven't hit my head. There's no other symptoms. Nick searched my entire scalp. There's no mark anywhere. There's no bump. But it's still, to this moment, that's why my hair is in this big, loose, floppy braid, because I can't stand touching my hair right now. It actually hurts that bad. I can't brush my hair. For no reason.
Well, I didn't have anything that hurt me, but you helped me to remember that twice in the last week, I've had these experiences like, when you stretch really, really well, like a cat or something, and just for a second it feels like, you go out, I don't know, like you feel something all the way out to here. Well, I wasn't doing any stretching, but all of a sudden from my head, and I was like completely aware of the fact that I was projected out here, or my energy was way out here because I was feeling this. And I'm like, holy shit, don't move, don't do anything. You want to retain this, you want to remember it, but you don't want to lose it, but you don't want to go anywhere either. Just observe this. It did it a couple of times, and each time it didn't last for a second or two. It lasted for 30 seconds, a minute. It's like I'd never experienced anything like that before. And so again, I'm sure it has to do with all these changes that are happening, but that was a physical feeling, a reaction that almost felt like my body or my consciousness was expanded out here because I could feel things out here, but yet I'm still completely aware that I'm in my body right here. That's the best I can do to describe it.
Yeah.
And the link I put in chat, Lisa, I can put it in again. There it is again, if you need it.
Got it. There it is.
What did Jed do?
Well, Jed just said something about shifting plates and like the
comes from nowhere and can disappear just as easily, especially on the head. Almost feels like my cranial plates have shifted.
Yeah, the reason I'm laughing is you say cranial plates, because I've been kind of semi-joking that someone is doing some bizarre remodeling on my cranium, physically on my cranium, for the last 15 years or so, 20 years. Because I have a dent in the back of my skull. And I don't mean a little, I mean like when I shave my head, I have a massive dent. Looks like someone hit me with an axe. And my mom says to me, you've never had that in your life. I've never seen that dent before. You never had that as a child. How can you have a freaking dent in your skull all of a sudden? And then on January, I was talking to Lisa, we were still in Morocco, and I got up and I looked in the mirror, and I have a dent that runs down the line of my forehead right here. And you can still feel it. There is a dent in my skull. And it's very fine. And I'm just like, great. Is there someone beating me when I'm not around? Or is my brain just expanding? I don't know. It's cracking out of the sides of my skull. Even my brain's expanding and it's cracking out of my skull.
Oh, that's so not happening.
Yeah, I know. Okay, anyways, I just wanted to share that with you guys. Here, You can have your toys back.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
I had a train of thought before I left for the bathroom break, and now it's gone. Yeah, because I'm sure Ben shared it when he was in New Zealand, how he felt like he had a when he had a dream and woke up at like 4 o'clock in the morning and had to get up and out of bed and kind of stretch, and it felt like he'd broken ribs.
Yeah,
and he could barely breathe, and it wasn't until he went back to bed, went back to sleep, woke up in the morning, and something triggered the memory during the day, and he remembered basically being attacked and being in a battle and like someone beating the shit out of him in his sleep. And he was physically battered and bruised as a result. That's different to what you've experienced.
That's what I was going to say. I've experienced exactly
I know.
that.
We both have. We've woken up bruised and...
I have no recollection. Like, there's no triggering memory of, like, something having happened. There's zero.
We hadn't even been to sleep.
Nope. Don't know.
It does sound as crazy as what I'm about to say is. It does, or it sounds like, you know, an alternate version got her head smashed in. And she felt it. There's a movie.
In some other timeline, Lisa hit me over the head with a frying pan. I know she did.
There's a movie that I saw recently, and I can't remember the name of it. I'll try and look it up so I can post it. It wasn't a big deal movie. It was kind of probably a low budget, under the radar movie. About a guy and a girl who, for whatever reason, from the time they're children, are connected. And she falls off a toboggan, and he collapses in his schoolroom and has all the injuries. One thing happens to one and it happens to the other. And then they get to a point where they're kind of inside one another. And they're looking out through each other's eyes. And then they can communicate. And so he will look in the mirror and she will look in the mirror so they can actually see each other, and they'll have a conversation until they finally get a chance to actually meet.
Sense8.
Bit like Sense8, yeah. Yeah, actually. And that's another one I'm looking forward to coming back.
That should be next month, I think.
But maybe that's an extension of telepathy. I mean, once we can clearly communicate with one another, maybe that's the next step. And some of us are perhaps experiencing that on little flashes of that.
Maybe what's communicating with us is not in this reality, in this dimension, in this timeline, but it's crossing through. I'll give you an example of what I mean. I'm sure that many people in this group have talked to their body, you know, whether it's focusing on particular areas or just, you know, whatever that may be to you. And when I do, I get this sense of, it's like, you know, not a thrill, but an adrenaline rush, like a good sense of joy or something. And it just happens when I think about, like, that I'm talking to my body. Let me know what you need, how you feeling, you know, that kind of stuff. And so then when I or anyone else has something, talk to them, whether it's using their voice in their head, which has happened to me a few times, or that whole heareth thing that I went through. What if that is the same thing but in reverse, where something are above us, or not, I won't even say above us, in the same concept as us talking to our body, because we're connected, we're part of the same, and it is recognizing that it's hearing the voice of God probably. Ooh, that's God's talking. It's the same thing in reverse. So something is able to connect with us. What if that something is, I don't want to jump to source, but what if that something is of a more, we're connected to it, but in the same thing, just in reverse. And that is, you're muted.
I actually do think that this is part of a bigger body. Just like my big toe is a part of the overall body, as is every other little piece, that we consider a whole is actually just a piece of a larger body. Now, whether that's the physical aspect of it, whatever, but certainly the consciousness aspect of it. I mean, when I had that experience going back over that Christmas day and what followed, there was this presence, this energy that I kept referring to as Big Lisa. And there was, it's hard to describe the feeling and the sense of this presence, because it was me. It was so me, and yet it wasn't. It was so much more than that. But it was like meeting yourself, you know. Energetically, it matched so perfectly.
Well, even if you look at the Earth from a distant point in the universe, it looks like a ball. But yet we know on that Earth that there are all these different people and they're all moving around, and you know, it's not a solid, the ball isn't as solid as it looks. There's lots of moving pieces the closer you get. And the same is for us. The closer we look at things, we see the cells, the atoms, and I'm sure at that level, if you continue to go down, it's the same thing. So, you know, what's to say that we aren't part of something that is so massive in this direction, so massive in that direction, but all we really focus on or concentrate on is this reality. And this is just a splash in the pan.
I have to laugh because Maury's laughing, saying Lisa's big toe, Lisa's big theory of everything. There's actually, it's kind of funny because back in 2011, I actually wrote a little article, mini book, and I called it My Big Toe. And I had no idea at the time that somebody had written a book called My Big Toe, or The Big Toe, or whatever it was. And it was basically this whole description of my concept at the time of consciousness and how it works and what we're really a part of. And just before I was going to publish it, I found out that there's this book out called My Big Toe. And I went, oh, well, someone's already done it. I haven't even read that book. I just felt or assumed, whatever, it was probably saying the same thing. And it was just one of those things where more than one person's tapped into the same kind of stream of consciousness or whatever. So I never did anything with it. And I'm assuming that I still to this day have not read that book or know what it's about. And I'm assuming it's about the same thing I was writing about. But yeah, I had this whole story about being a cell inside a big toe. So yeah, it's kind of funny. How about our body? Our avatar is one of many versions all here simultaneously. Yeah, fractals. And that's something we talked about last year, I think, that as all these timelines are merging or collapsing or whatever, that we're actually merging with these other fractals of ourselves until there's one. Kind of like the movie The One with Jet Li. In that movie, he goes around or he travels through all these different alternate realities and kills himself off. And he absorbs everything about that one that he's... Well, not everything, actually. Every time he kills one off, everything about that one gets absorbed equally amongst the others until it comes down to him and another one who have absorbed everything kind of equally. And we've talked a lot about merging because our memories were getting all screwed up for a while there. It's like having memories that weren't really yours, or deja vus, or all kinds of experiences that just didn't quite add up. And I was convinced for a while there, and actually still to pretty much am, that we're really only down to two. Whether they're timelines or alternate realities or whatever, it just feels like there's only two that are prominent right now. Everything else is It's too weak to.
I just wish mine were a safety helmet.
Just looking at the chat room for a minute. Tom Campbell wrote My Big Toe. Yes, but your toe may not be the same as theirs. Might not have.
Yeah, I just went over there. I did the same thing to see if I could get a description. And although the book, it's a part of a trilogy apparently, but if you look at the customer reviews, the first one says, with humor and high spirits, Tom Campbell informally shares with you in his trilogy who he is and how he started on the journey that led to his big toe. Campbell's big toe, which refers to nothing less than the theory of everything, stands on firm ground. In the bigger picture of our existence, in a bigger picture of our existence than has ever been presented, my big toe weaves philosophy, physics, and metaphysics together to create a model of reality through which you can begin your journey towards a higher quality of consciousness. So isn't that interesting that even in general theory, it is what you were describing?
I wonder whether we would have been saying the same thing.
I wonder too, because then that kind of supports that theory that, you know, there are a couple of people, let's say, on the Earth way before there was the kind of communication there is today, where you had to take a ship to cross the water, and they're both working on the same thing because they got the equivalent of like a download or a trigger from something that went, ooh, and they start working on it. You know, it's almost like there's something up there that goes, okay, it's time. Let's just put it out there and people pick it up, you know, and they're completely unrelated.
See which one runs with it.
Yeah.
Where can we get a copy of the Flat Earth and all the pods out there on the Earth infinite plane? You showed us the picture yesterday. That picture that I showed, the one that's got the one that was in the Hawaiian Gazette, somebody just found that in the archives of the Hawaiian Gazette and shared it on a YouTube video. So there's nothing more on that one that I know of. But oh my God, you do a search for Flat Earth on YouTube and you'll be there for a month, 24/7. There's so much material out there. And the really cool thing that I'm seeing coming out of this whole Flat Earth movement is the collaborations between people, between YouTubers, between YouTube channels. You know, they're getting together in different parts of the world and running experiments. You know, seriously scientific, legitimate experiments. It's for those who are very passionate about it, it's become a full-time thing. They've all walked away from whatever else they were doing and they're just out to try and prove definitively one way or the other the shape of the planet. So I'm not, there's nothing specific that I've got to share with you. It's just go and do a search. You'll be there forever. Yeah, what are those continents or islands outside the ice wall perimeter of the UN polar view of Earth?
I know. That was really it. What is that? Right in front of your monitor?
A fly.
That's hilarious. It was totally covering up the screen.
That looked like I just Vaseline to give myself a bit of a soft glow, soft focus. Campbell was instrumental in the formulation of the whole HoloSync thing way back in the very early 70s. Oh, what was it? It was a map. I can dig it up and find you the link. I think it was a map that was found. It was brought over to Hawaii by a Japanese guy,
I think so.
who said it had been found in
I have it.
a Japanese Buddhist temple, and it had apparently been hidden away in this temple for 1,000 years. and that it was brought to this temple 1,000 years ago by someone in China. So they actually have no idea how old it is or who actually created it. Thank you, Barbara, for the link. And I'll show it again now. Just for those who didn't catch it yesterday. Here it is. And that's what it looks like. So at a minimum, they've dated it to 1,000 years, but they know it's older than that. And this newspaper is from 1907. So yeah, it's pretty damn interesting because it's the only one I've seen that shows anything beyond the ice wall, beyond this, our own snow globe.
I was curious.
Why the circle's only around what we know of? Well, I guess that's the speculation, is that, and what I'm personally feel is that we have been, or this particular landmass area that you see inside the circle has been deliberately, intentionally separated from the rest. By whom and why is the $1 million question, as Sheila just said. We were talking yesterday about what's written in the Bible about the firmament and the separation of the waters from the waters. And it's always interpreted as the firmament was created to separate the waters above from the waters below. But when you read it slightly differently and you take it as two different lines and two different steps, it can actually be interpreted as separated the waters from the waters being this way. The waters from the waters were separated with the ice wall, and the firmament was put in place to separate the waters above from the water below. It could actually be read to mean two different steps in the process. Because we were rereading it all the other day when we came across this map. Didn't they used to write beyond here, there be dragons?
Yeah.
Ah,
Be dragons.
on old maps about regions that they did not know.
Yep. Be dragons.
Yeah, well, when I first came across all this information, all of that stuff about how the ice age happened in a moment and snap froze everything, sort of connected for me with this. What if that ice wall was put in place in a moment? It was just snap frozen.
Yep.
That would explain why we have all of these so-called mythological creatures. They might have just been home, might have been one of these other islands that no longer exist, or so-called prehistoric animals, or the whole prehistoric animal thing and the whole dinosaur period, that's even up for debate now, if you haven't come across that information. Apparently there wasn't a single dinosaur discovered until 20 years after the concept was proposed. So that's all being re-looked at too. And the evil is just an anagram for veil or live backwards. And we say that everything here is inverted or backwards or upside down, back to front, arse up. What if this is an experiment that's being conducted in here on inversion? Let's take everything and contain it in this space and turn the whole fucking thing upside down. What happens? The chat room's going crazy again. I'll just stop sharing for a second. Barbara, once Michael Jackson was asked why he didn't sleep, and he said that in the very early hours of overnight is when the songs came in. If he went to sleep, then Prince would get them.
Because that's fun.
That's funny. Seriously fucking.
That is funny.
Jed saying many of his songs came in at 2 a.m. Lisa, can you post this link in the show? Yes, we'll do. What I first noticed was the two judgments are rendered caption. Interesting. Where? What are you talking about, Jed? Oh, on the screenshot? About another story? Yeah. Beyond here, there be dragons. Does it say that on Google Maps? Here be dragons. The New World was considered beyond where the dragons are until Europeans sailed there, disproving it.
Or did they? Maybe they just took human form.
I mean, sorry. Even if the whole flat earth thing is nothing but a distraction and a psyop and a blah, 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 there are certain questions that have come up out of that just need, I think, need to be answered. I mean, basic mainstream stuff. Why have we had this treaty in place around the South Pole, around the Antarctic, since the 40s? It's a very suspicious treaty. And I'm sorry, but the world leaders have not been able to agree on anything, ever, for very long, and yet they've all stuck to this thing. And as soon as a country becomes economically and militarily capable, they are forced to sign the treaty. I don't believe anything NASA says. And that by extension means any country who has a space program is in cahoots with whatever this conspiracy is. And as much as people like to wave Putin around as our Lord and Saviour, for God's sake, Russia's got a space program. Russia's the one who actually sends up the American astronauts these days.
Yep.
So he might be stirring the pot, but did he? You know, he's still in on it, whatever it is, and much more. So until he comes, unless he completely comes clean on a bunch of stuff, I'm so sick of seeing Putin's about to release the papers, and you know that never happens. Stop muttering in.
Sure.
Peanut Gallery sitting there swearing its head off. By the UN, apparently. Is who they're forced to sign the treaty with. Who are those persons who made the news and tell us that something has been disproved? All right, I'm sorry, I'm missing the context of that question. But there's a lot. Honestly, there's just so much stuff right now that is so interesting that's being re-examined, exposed, made transparent. It's fun. It's fucking fun to just look at all this stuff again and question it. And the flat earth, I mean, I've seen some people react violently. They are so threatened by having the globe questioned. It doesn't bother me. I'm not threatened by it at all. I don't give a shit what shape it is, right? At all. But, you know, or whether or not dinosaurs existed and whether they did alongside humans or not, you know, it's fascinating. it's exciting to look into this stuff and re-examine it. There's no need to be threatened by all this stuff, I don't think, unless you're just that invested in a particular paradigm because you think it says something about you, which I don't see the point in at all, personally. Thanks, Maury. glad to be of service. Hebrew Dragons is also used like this. In computer programming, software programmers sometimes use this expression to indicate sections of particularly complex and obscure passages of the source code of a program, so that the user or other programmers who would access them are warned. Hebrew Dragons.
Interesting.
Programmers, yeah, because, okay, that email that I talked about earlier was like a series of dots and dashes, and that triggered a memory of something I've forgotten, if that makes sense. I know the idea of codes, dots and dashes has come up in possibly with you lately in some of the shows. Or in other messages from people or something that we've discussed. It was like it's in the dots and the dashes. What was it though?
Hold on, give me a second.
Yeah, that wasn't us.
Nope, that was Roundtable. That was about 3-4 months ago.
Was it? And it was on this subject, wasn't it?
Binary code.
Yeah.
Dots and the dashes. Nick was here for the conversation because she was the one who went into the whole thing about binary code versus trinary. You remember this, right?
I know, it's niggling at the back of my head, but it was huge.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody please remember. Because it was to do with timelines and all of, and matrix and realities and all of that, and it's like the answer was in the code.
Mm-hmm. I remember.
Because when I read that email yesterday, it reminded me that there was this thing, and I can't remember what this thing is. But it's, I mean, the guys who made the Matrix obviously knew something, the way that they were flashing the Matrix code, the numbers all over. The I Ching is dots and dashes, binary code, yes. The I Ching has sent people mad, completely mad. Even Terence McKenna, who studied the I Ching, said something about almost losing his mind completely whilst doing so. I don't know, is he agreeing with me? Is he supporting me? Is he arguing with me? What's he doing?
He may be agreeing with you.
I think his cluck is a series of dots and dashes. Da, 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 da.
That's it. We need to record and decipher the rooster.
There you go. Somebody start recording and deciphering the rooster, who, by the way, it's probably not going to be around much longer.
I take it then the I Ching isn't the only thing that makes people go mad.
He's supposed to be relocated to a new home shortly. So
Or dinner.
he may be missed. Who knows? We have quite a few rooster recordings. We just have to go back through the shows. He's uncanny. He's fucking uncanny.
Seriously.
Okay, so with everything that we've been talking about, everything that we've been going through, the doings that we've been doing on the shows over the last few months, actually. What would you guys like to do as a doing?
Maybe some kind of reveal, since we've been talking about so many things that are mysteries.
Because we've talked about revisiting the levity one, and it feels like our manifestation power right now is powerful. So be careful what we ask for. We've done. What was the one that What was the one that people were really kind of iffy about? Do you remember?
The one right before my experience when.
Was that?
Yeah. And I forget what it
Oh,
was.
time.
Stepping out of time.
Stepping out of time.
And it worked.
Yeah, didn't it? Didn't it? No, thanks, not ready for that one. Okay. But what about just trying to get into a space collectively of being so totally in the now? If we looked at it a little differently, kind of like what that guy described in the email. No thought. Just so totally in the now. And
I
so
like that.
what about meeting
I like
together
that.
in the new Earth timeline? I mean, we are already doing that, but more focused.
That's just my opinion is that whatever you want to call it is what it'll be for you. So you don't really have to label it New Earth or anything for our purposes. If it feels like it's New Earth for you, then that is what you will. That's where you'll take it. Because it's the label thing that's turning me off.
Yeah, because everybody's got their own interpretation.
As we found on the show.
Yeah,
And
right.
I also think that if we do it in some way where it allows, again, for the individual aspect, that then everybody will have their own experiences and then they can come back and share them. Because if we can get ourselves to a point where we are so in the now that we have those moments of no thought, where we're at what someone referred to as 0 point, and we do it in such a way that we are also open to any positive energies that are flowing our way, that the expanse of experiences people could have could just reach the gamut. You know, it doesn't really limit anything. It just leaves it all open. So if you go into it with fear, then you're going to probably have fear-based things in those moments of no thought. If you're just filled with joy and excitement about the prospects, then whatever comes your way in those moments will probably be filled with joy and excitement. So you just, put your emotions in check before you would do something like that. But it does leave it open for everyone to have their own moments in the experiences in those moments.
Because you've experienced this and you kind of actively do it, how do you feel about just talking through a process until we get to a certain point, and then maybe we just put a little bit of music on, no talking, so that people can get into this now with no thought?
I like the part where you say, then we can get us to the now point and just play some music for a while, but that is just not what I'm good at. I'm not good at leading people through a meditation. I'm
not even talking, that's why I said it the way I said it. Like, if you just say out loud what you're doing. That's it. Just verbalize the process you're putting yourself through.
I can do that. It just sounds strange, but I can do that. I guess we'll find out whether it's an effective method and whether we want to scrap it in the future by doing it. So I can describe what I'm doing. It just, I don't know, it sounds weird. So I'm not telling anybody to do anything. I would just be saying, okay, relax and whatever I'm doing. That's right. All right, I'm game.
Okay.
Everybody reserve their laughs.
No one's going to laugh. Just don't throw up, said Jed.
I know, but running through the laundry, it's good as new, as I found. I did have to get on my hands and knees and really scrub the carpet, though. I don't want to do that again.
Okay. Have you got any nice music? I don't know if I've got anything on this computer.
I do, but I don't know if I have it on this computer either. Oh gosh, because I don't even. You know what? I'm gonna have to plug something in. I got a couple of computers on this. I know what I can use if I can find it. Give me a second.
Yeah, I'm having a look too. See if I've got anything.
Oh, come on. What's there? Okay.
Okay. Where are we?
Let's see, find something first. Whoever finds something first.
Just give it all to me. There we go. I'm looking.
Yeah, me too. I just have the literally entire computers on this thing, so I know which computer it was on. I just have to find it. Okay, I have something here. Oh yeah, but how are you going to hear it? I'm going to have to share my screen, I bet, right? Or
Yeah.
just to play the music. Okay, let me do that first.
And just don't forget to click the share computer sound
Yeah.
button.
Let's let me close these things.
Oh, it's a nice pool of water we can look at though.
Yeah, that's why I was trying to get it down there so that we could. Where's the song? Everything's open. We have to find it again. There it is. Can you hear that?
Yep.
I don't know where it's playing from, but it's playing somewhere by iTunes. Okay, but turn off my picture. Can you still see something?
Yeah, I can see your computer.
Okay, perfect. Okay, I'm just breathing, taking in some deep breaths, holding it for about 6-7 seconds. Letting it go. Again. Now as I'm exhaling, I'm relaxing my shoulders and then moving down my body. My head, my neck, shoulders, back of my body, down my back, front, where my organs are. And now it's in the same position, so my pelvis is just relaxed. Top of my legs, calves, feet, toes, arms, hands, fingers, mouth. Breathe. Listening to the music and allowing it to move through my head since it's stereo on earphones. Just concentrating on the music so that I don't have any thoughts of my own. If something begins to come through, I allow it and just let it go again. I won't stop that. Now with my eyes closed, I'm still moving forward. I'm moving here and I'm looking at a screen. The screen is blank. I just allow it to fill in with whatever is floating through my mind. What the music produces for me. Pulse and chest. I'm never too gone to continue to describe anything. So allow yourself the freedom to expand in a way that you're comfortable with. I feel very free right now. Slowly. They're everywhere all at the same time. Feeling the emotions. I am the emotion. Playful, expansive. I've gone from a place that was filled with light. There was a lot of light behind, to something more darker, like looking at the sky full of stars. It's full, somber, lighting. I feel my body swaying from a distant place. From something. feet again. Grounding on the floor. Brush from the feet to the top of my head. I feel the air on my skin from the outside. Very peaceful. My eyes are open and I'm back, so take a few moments. As you feel comfortable, pull yourself back. In the now. Ever present.
So you got this.
I suppose.
I know I look it, but I promise I didn't go to sleep. I may now.
Your microphone's giving a little bit of feedback, Lise.
Any better?
Now it is. We'll just live with it. I'm curious if did people like the music? Did they feel, that it was, what was their experience? It's like your fucking microphone's trying to talk.
It's not me. I swear.
Forming words.
And now?
People are saying.
You're not hearing me at all?
I hear you,
Oh.
and I don't hear the feedback, so that's good. Sort of surreal for me. Smooth as silk, only better. Wow, that was quite
Galactivating.
Nice one.
That's probably part of it's the music. I picked that on purpose. It's recorded. It's this amazing effort to record sound at certain hertz, a variety of different hertz, a variety of different sounds, for the most transformational experience one can have through music. And I think he did a really good job. It's called Vibronics, but I don't remember the name of the guy who did it.
When you close your eyes and you get lots of little sparklies and different things. So my little trick is to try and grab one of those and hold it, follow it, don't let it disappear, because if you don't focus on them, they just fade and then another one's come in. And that tends to take me deeper and deeper and deeper and blocks out other thought. So that's what I was doing while you were, and yeah, hence I look like this. But I, funnily enough, came back at the same time you did. Just as I sat up, opened my eyes, grabbed a couple of things, and then you said, and bring yourself back. I was like, oh, okay, she's done too. Right at the same time. Your audio sounded as if it was coming from a different dimension, not sort of not quite make out the words. Yeah.
Hey, Jen, I don't know if you noticed, but Daydream Believer is what I called the show today, because you mentioned it at the top of the show. So that's why I had that funny look and I said I was being devious. So if you look at the post for the show on the Collective Imagination, the topic today is Daydream Believer. So maybe that's what the experience was. It was, we are daydream believers.
I got very hot at one point and slightly dizzy and lightheaded. I also instantly at one point outloaded from within some deeper understandings of theories I've been speculating about that helped to connect the dots with my life. Finally, Spirit asked me to follow up on sharing something with Lisa that was suggested a couple of weeks ago, which I've not followed up on yet. Thank you. Look forward to that then. Deja vu.
That's interesting.
Well, thank you. So, yeah, you got this. I don't want to hear.
Flight Through Stars. I felt that way a little bit too.
Oh, now my eyes just want to close though. I'll go sleepy boys.
Well, we've got 15 minutes, but we can always close out early. It's up to you.
It's a little early for a nap.
You never had a chance to go back to that Facebook post.
Oh, yeah, let's do that. Oh, now I've got to find it in chat again. Yeah.
If I still have it open.
No.
I do. I still have it open, so let me post it
Okay.
again. There.
I'll share the screen just because I can.
Just because I can.
Just because I can. Okay, so what you should know about jumping timelines was the post. And then there was a whole conversation. Oh, should I share screen and give people's names? Maybe I shouldn't. I'll stop doing that. So then a conversation ensued, and I wanted to get to Nathan's posts, which was our research into the reality alterations, also known as Mandela effect, disproves the merging timelines theory. And when you study the phenomenon, a few things become clear, including the fact that we are sharing the same reality. I wish the merging timelines theory were true because what we've discovered is far more sinister. What was the bit that really got you out of this conversation?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah.
Well, let me actually go there. He said something that was really firm. And I guess I'll go back. And I responded to it. Okay. He said,
reality alterations are our higher self's attempt. This one?
No, hang on. It's longer than that. Oh, it's under the replies. The one that you read, well, hang on. Linda responds, and then under her responses, he says, I do not believe that reality alterations are AI rewriting our history. Reality alterations are our higher self's attempt to wake us up to the fact that we're imprisoned in a false reality, a simulation that is harmful to us and feeding on our soul energy. The AI that runs the simulation or hologram is responsible for keeping us in the illusion, and that this is real and where we should be for our spiritual growth and evolution. Nothing here is good. This is a deception. The AI uses memory replacement technology to cover up their reality alterations so we do not see the changes. And then he continues on. But my issue was where he said that it's our higher self's attempt to wake us up to the fact that we're imprisoned in a false reality a simulation that is harmful to us and feeding our soul energy. Well, I don't doubt that that's his truth. So I don't want to take that away from anyone. So that's what I said to him. I said that you said this, and that I believe that's your experience because it's your truth. But I personally don't feel in prison. I actually feel this reality is a gift that I may have even asked for in order to take in this whole 3D time reality, that all this 3D time reality has to offer, both good and bad. We go through all sorts of movies, dramas, comedies, actions, etc. And although I didn't really expand on this, my idea was, well, we go to the movies and we watch all these things. Why can't this reality be the same? And whether it's good or bad, we sit in that experience for a couple of hours, and then when we come out of it, we realize that we can move in any direction we want. Your microphone is doing that feedback thing.
I'm not even touching it. It's weird.
I'm telling you, it's trying to communicate.
I'll mute while I try and fix it.
Okay. So then I said, so why not then might we do that on this plane? So in other words, if we are willing to open a book and read a romance, then why aren't we able to create that same kind of reality in our own life? If we read about wars in the news and we spend a lot of time on the news, or we go to an action flick with lots of action stuff, then why can't we have that same experience in our real life, but then turn it on and off as we so fit?
Doing it again?
It's really, yeah. Wow.
I'm good.
Again, it said, based upon my own observations, I am just as confident as you are about your truth, that this hologram is a density that we can step into and out of, and the ability to move from one timeline to another. So my issue was just, he said, that is so loud, it sounds like a steam truck going through. It's louder than me. I'm wondering if people can even hear me. Yeah, Linda says she can't even hear me when it's doing that. But my whole thing was, I can appreciate that he feels that it's dangerous and that it's not a good place for us to be. And I respect that that is his reality, because I think each of us has our own reality. It's just not mine. And so I'm open to the idea that each one of us has our own reality. I'm just hoping that he would too, and see that just because that's his experience doesn't mean that we all are having that same experience. Not that one is true and one is false. They're both true. We just are each having our own experiences in this reality that we're in. That was my point.
Now?
No. Let me mute.
You still hearing it?
Well, let me tap dance here a little bit. Now, don't do that. You'll get more of that. Maybe that's the whole point. Maybe you brought all that back with you from your meditation, Lisa. One thing that I was hoping to do was, since we do have a few minutes and Lisa's working on that, is I'm having an experience that I wanted to do live here and then report back next month as to what happens, so that I can right now manifest the result that I want, and then we'll come back next month and see how it all panned out, because this would be completely beyond my control. So, whoop, there goes that hair clip. I just flicked it across the room. Let me share my screen for a second. And I'm pretty sure I still have that open. I know it's on my desktop, so let me find it. I think it's this one. Oh, there it is. Okay, this is the one that is blocked. So let me zoom in a little bit. Oh well. I guess you're going to see who one of my clients is. You're just not going to see the amount. I forgot to get this one. Well, I have a client, And every month this client pays me on the 15th of the month the same amount. And has for years. We've renegotiated, and that amount has changed, but this will be the 12th time or the 12th month that this payment has come through. So every month on the 15th, I've been calling them because I've been a PayPal customer for 15 years. And I'm surprised that they keep putting a hold on this for a couple of days. So what I did was I called them and I spoke to many people. Every month I would call and speak to someone. Every month they would release the money immediately because they would see that I have, a great track record with them and, all the positive stuff that I could mention. And that I've been working with this client and it's the same amount, the same day of the month, no issues with this client, etc. So every month when I call, they do release it, and then they assure me it's never going to happen again. And then the next month it happens again, and they put it on hold. Well, this time it was a little different. When I called them, not only could they not release it, not that they wouldn't, they couldn't. They said that it is now completely automated, and that the system decides when something is going to be held. And I said, okay, what's the amount threshold? So that, I was thinking all the different ways that I could circumvent this. And they said, well, it could be $50, it could be $20, $100. It doesn't matter what the amount is. It's a lot of things. The system is making its own choice. And I said, well, to be perfectly honest, my feeling is that you now are operating more like a bank. And a bank will put these arbitrary holds on your funds for a day or two simply so that they can have an average daily balance in their account, because that amount is what they utilize to figure out how much money they can lend, how much, all these kinds of decisions that they get to make based on that. And I said, and that's disturbing to me because I don't want to be utilized in that way. So this time, not only could they not release the amount, but that they also told me that there's probably nothing that can ever be done because it's an algorithm in the system and that nobody's going to change it. And I said, well, and they kept saying, but it's for your protection. It's for your protection. What if they do a stop payment? And I'm like, yeah, you can say that it's for my protection till your face turns blue, but it's not protecting me at all. I've just told you it's the same client, the same amount, the same day of the month for a year now. And prior to that, it was, many years the same client, the same day of the month, just different amounts. And I said, so it's not protecting me, it's hurting me. And as a long-term client with an amazing track record of no issues ever as a merchant or as a purchaser, somebody has to look at this. And I went from supervisor to supervisor to supervisor to supervisor. And they were all saying that when I finally got to what I would call the highest person available in the customer service department, they said that when things get escalated to, I think they called it the payment control department or something like that. I wrote it down somewhere. That they have no way to reach them, not by phone, not by email, nothing. The only way they can reach you is through a ticket. And to have a ticket issued on someone's issue, they have to check off a box. So, it's just like, drop down, you check off that one, which brings another drop down until you come to the specific issue. And this issue of having someone's transaction not be blocked every month is not an option. It just doesn't exist. So they have no way to even reach this department. And I said, come on, somewhere there's a person, even if it's only one, who's sitting in there with all the computers that are running these algorithms and somebody who wrote the code. There is someone. I said, so do I have to go from the top down and contact the president or the CEO or whoever is in charge of PayPal? And of course, they're not going to read it, but they're going to send it to someone who's going to send it to someone, and it'll eventually get somewhere, especially if I do it more than once, and I do it certified mail, and I put all my flowery legal language in there. I said, so that's basically enough to get you the idea. So I decided, you know what? I'm not going to go that route. I'm going to handle it. I'm going to manifest what I want. And I'm going to leave enough wiggle room for it to happen any way it wishes. I'm asking for all of you to pull your energy together, if you feel comfortable, to support this, because, so the more people that participate, the more I have supporting this and making more possibilities out there. So next month, this isn't going to happen to me anymore. And it's not going to happen to me ever again with this particular client on this particular payment that happens on the 15th of the month. So June 15th will be the date that or whatever show we have soon thereafter, that I'll be able to come back and tell you the successes that we had. So I'm just going to take a moment to show you how, again, I don't really do anything fancy. I just decide. And I have to have the feeling of knowing that this is going to happen. There can't be any doubt or negativity associated with it. So we're going to do this live. And then next month I'm going to come back and show you that it worked. Even if it's just, it may not be any pomp and circumstance, it just may be that the amount is in my account. And I guess since we can see that this is who it is, we'll see that it was on the 15th, and I'll just block out the amount again. So it's as simple as this. Right here, right now, this issue is gone. It doesn't exist anymore. There is no challenge here. All of my payments will come freely. I enjoy the feeling that I get when these come to me. I will enjoy the extra free time that I have in not having to follow up. I love and I'm very grateful for PayPal and everything they've done for me for the last 14 years. And that gratitude I send out to them now. And every time I think of PayPal, I will send gratitude to them. And it is done. So there we go. So a live demonstration again of how the power of manifestation will come to work for us. And I will put it on my calendar for the 15th to bring it back to whatever show is immediately following that one. And it'll be done. And it'll be fun to see how it happened. I'm unmuted. Nothing?
Barbara, you're muted, sweetie.
Oh, I just am using my hand symbols. What I was saying was that I see some people in chat setting the intent to help Lisa with her microphone and getting over the issue that way. And what I was saying was that works as long as the receiver also is open to it. And you cannot control that. The receiver could be Lisa. The receiver could be the person who feels they own the computer. The receiver could be the whole energy field around where Lisa's sitting. So we can do that, and it will help and it will be beneficial as long as the receiver is open. If the receiver or anything at the receiver's end is closed, we can be the most powerful manifestors in the world, and nothing's going to happen.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. You sound great.
Get Dee to log in for me very quickly. Okay, I've been wanting to say something for ages. Firstly, in regards to your PayPal issue, you can love and light PayPal all you want, but in the meantime, you may want to look at Stripe as an alternative. Just put that out there.
And if you want to know the background of how this is all happening, I can tell you the entire story. But
back to what we were talking about before and that conversation that was happening on Facebook. There are actually scientists, and I can't remember the guy's name. And there's a team of people working on this. And the theory is that even right here, right now, in our current technology, with what we have in creating virtual reality, with virtual games and things like that, we actually have the technology to step into a virtual world. As long as you're wearing a helmet where your sensory, you're completely enveloped in this virtual world, it's as real as this one. The only issue we have, apparently, is memory. Because we know we're sitting in somewhere with a helmet on having this experience. We remember our real life.
And we all have this long-term memory issues apparently right now. Short-term memory, long-term memory.
So the premise here is that this very well could be a virtual reality created by a future version of us that we're living out. And we've never ever created a technology or had the potential to create a technology, especially a weapon, but any kind of technology, and actually thought about it and gone, yeah, we're not going to go there. We never do that. If we can, we do. And we're so close already right now that it could actually be even just 100 years from now. Future version of us for 100 years from now are creating or have created potentially millions of virtual realities for us to play in. Because the only thing, like I said, that they are left to tackle is our memory. And if you can suspend your memories, and they're already doing experiments on this subject with rats. They are literally removing their memories and then reinserting them. DARPA's doing it with humans.
Doing it with humans. They're already, they figured out how to edit memories. And there's a big article 2 months ago how DARPA's got this new technology, which means it's been around for ages, to go in and basically, what's the Schwarzenegger movie where he takes the
one where he goes to Mars? Yeah.
Which one is that? Total Recall.
Total Recall.
Right? And basically that's kind of what they were saying, that they now have the ability to... What are you trying to do?
Well, they do keep telling us, that the whole key is to remember who you are. Maybe that's kind of like, the backdrop of this whole virtual reality that we're in. And I could easily see that if you put a helmet on and you're in a virtual reality environment, that within that environment, you could create a virtual reality. So if you can do that, why...
13th floor.
Right. So
the movie, and that's actually part of the hypothesis with these guys, is that it's completely conceivable that within a virtual reality, the people develop enough technology to create a virtual reality, and then it's an infinite loop of virtual realities.
What happens if one bad programmer takes over the original virtual reality and removes control from the original players and lets it run? And
well, this seems to be one of but there's kind of minor factions within these two major schools of thought, but it seems to be that everyone falls into one of two general categories, which is that this is a matrix prison, that someone did this to us, that we are trapped here, or that we've created it for ourselves.
Or that we created it for ourselves.
And it got
usurped. It's been co-opted.
But
which would kind of play into a lot of
brings
the
you back into
stuff.
the other general theory, though.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a trap, and
it's a trap,
a prison, and all that stuff.
That's fascinating. Was that
the 13th floor? Is that the movie you're talking about, Katie? Because if you haven't seen it, yes, it's worth watching.
That even supports what Nathan was saying. He feels like he's trapped. And the loops that the email lady was talking about, or man, whoever that was.
We talked about it yesterday. Oh, God knows we've probably said it 1,000 times on shows. The one hypothesis, in my opinion, personally, that covers all the hypotheses, whether it's flat Earth, holographic universe, inner Earth, outer Earth, I don't care, multiple timelines, multi-dimensions, whatever, is that it's all simulation.
A virtual reality.
It all is a virtual reality simulation, and therefore that kind of cross covers every base.
Okay, we will do that next week. Katie, she wants to definitely discuss this topic more. Meet me in Montauk. What was that?
Oh, Jed, that's so funny because about an hour before the show, I posted a photo of my son, and he was sitting on Montauk Point on Long Island, which just happens to be the same place that they did the Montauk experiments and stuff, and he doesn't know that.
Yep.
So that's kind of funny, again, synchronistically, that out of all the phrases you could throw out there, buddy, he threw out the one where my son happened to be sitting.
You and Jed just keep doing this together, don't you?
Yeah.
All right, well, we should go. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Barbara, for leading us through that
Exhausting.
sleepy period of no time, no thought.
Yeah, and everybody come back next week and share your stories about being in the now and what that did for you. This was fun.
Yes, thank
It's
you,
a fun show.
everybody in chat who's been participating. It's lovely. So,
Bye. See you
bye
next
for
time.
now.
We are multi-dimensional creators, creating both our own personal experience